Since you went there, let's turn to the DOJ has brought a case against UCLA for not preventing the anti-Semitism, the harassing and assaulting of Jews on campus when the pro-Palestinian protesters took over parts of the campus at UCLA. So we finally have a case being made by the DOJ. They were slow to action. It took them, I think, 3 weeks before they did anything, but the DOJ is finally there. So
We got to
those
remember about
universities.
the proper metaphor is a hothouse plant. They live in a little greenhouse with controlled temperature and environment. That's the equivalent of giving a lifetime job, showing up 9 months to teach a year, teaching 1 or 2 classes a semester. Nobody audits how you spend your time, skipping out on office hours. Once you get tenure, it's very hard to remove you, so that much of their scholarly output sinks, and it's a very bizarre place where you have an elderly 30 and above who are constantly for the next 40 years surrounded by young idealistic kids with no training. You put all that together and no one has been in the real world. There's no consequences. So if you're a dean and you know that some of these pro-Hamas and anti-Israel demonstrations are pushing Jews and making it almost impossible for them to walk across campus, then you say, I'm a hothouse plant. I can't function in the real world, but in my little greenhouse, when they feed me everything I want, like tenure and a title, and I have an unlimited budget, and I've connived to be a president. There's not very many presidents like Larry Arndt or Max Nikias, believe me, none. John Silber was, but those 2 guys are exceptional. Pete Peterson, we mentioned at Pepperdine School of Public Policy, but they're very rare. Most of them have made compromises to be dean, assistant provost, and they go 7 or 8 times till they get to where they want. And then when this happens, they write this. This is not who we are at UCLA. This is not who we are. Yes, it is who you are, but they say that. But they never say, let me make it clear. If you are a UCLA student and we can verify that you engage in anti-Semitic activity, whether physical violence or intimidation, we're going to have a hearing. And if the evidence is clear, we're going to expel you forever from this campus. It would stop tomorrow. But then the dean said, oh my gosh, on the one hand, I could do that. But on the other, the faculty might have a vote of no confidence because they're all left like me. Oh my gosh. Maybe if I was walking across campus, the head of the Middle Easterns might yell at me. Or if I was in my parking lot and I was backing out, the students might surround my car. Oh my gosh. I might not ever get to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, Duke. It would terminate my cursus honorum. I can't do that. So the Trump administration, thank God, looks at these people and says, you're not going to charge us overhead 40% on grants anymore. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. And we're not going to subsidize federal student guaranteed loans when half the people are not graduating in 4 years. And we're not going to keep allowing you to run up $1.7 trillion in student debt and have these deadbeats making $100,000 that don't pay their student loans. We're done with it. And then have this star chamber court where if you're accused of being a transphobe or a homophobe or sexual or a racist, you can't have a lawyer. You have no due process, no evidence, no cross-examination. No, we're not going to do it anymore. And that's one of the best things that the Trump administration is doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the left can't handle it because they always said, we don't believe in racism and discrimination, and we've stopped anti-Semitism. That was what they always said. But now they are the problem. They are the party of anti-Semitism. The New Democratic Party is really, if you think about it very rationally, don't get emotional, it is now the best description is it's not a Democratic Party. It is a socialist-Islamicist party. Ask yourself what they all have in common. What is the Michigan Senate candidate, El Said? His main thing is socialism and Islam? How about Mandami, socialism and Islam and anti-Semitism? How about Graham Plattner, socialism and, well, Nazi tattoo? It's a little extreme, but I think we could say anti-Semitism. And the crazy woman that she won the general primary, but she lost the runoff.
Yeah, Maureen
Yeah.
Galindo.
Maureen Galindo wants to put pro-Zionists in camps and have them castrated to boot, along with a pedophile. And they are not the only people. I mean, you've got major people in the squad, right? The whole Black Caucus is anti-Israel, and it's socialist. And Bernie Sanders was a kook. He was a complete misfit. They all said, you go to Vermont. I used to speak in Vermont. I spoke at Middlebury. I spoke at the University of Vermont. It's a wonderful place. I had wonderful academic hosts. And this was 40 years ago, 30 years ago. I'd say, who's this guy's Bernie Sanders? Yeah, he runs for mayor every year. He kind of lives in the forest and walks around barefooted. He never had a job. He's kind of a kooky guy, but we like him. He's kind of an affable commie. And then he won the mayor, and then he's a congressman, and all of a sudden he's normal now. And this Tallarico in Texas he says he has a girlfriend, but he can't tell us who she is.
Yes, that was one of his more recent
And he
things.
says all these things about the Bible, and now they say the church that he has been officiating at has gay sex books and stuff in it, that it's eligible for people in its library to read.
Yeah.
And then he's in the beef capital of the world, the Texas Longhorns, and he says that we've got to all avoid beef, be veggies.
This week, though, he has those things have been pointed out in the last few weeks. This week, he said that he admits to and he called them this cringy comments, which were
now.
So
why did
he's
he do
trying
that?
to.
He only did that because they came out.
Well, they came out, but they were out for a while. So I guess this is his campaign's effort to try to deal with.
Because people said to him, they sat him down and said, "You're the next Beto, and you're a better candidate than Beto, and we can knock off Paxton because he's a little bit MAGA, a lot MAGA, and we're going to knock him off this." It's kind of like in boxing, the Great White Hope or the Unicorn. That's what they're going to do. They keep thinking they can do that. I don't think they can. And they say, we're going to pour money on you. But don't be Graham Plattner, not in Texas. Maybe in Maine, you can be a commie, but don't do it here. And don't talk about transgendered, and don't insult the oil industry, and don't insult the beef industry, and don't insult white people. And he has. And so now he's kind of refuted this, but he's such a man of truth and honesty and transparency. So somebody the other day said, well, why aren't you married? In Texas, that's a question, right? And he said he had a girlfriend, but he wouldn't disclose who it was, right? I'm not emanating anything, but
yeah.
I only say that because he's like a, what do you call it? Pete Buttigieg on steroids in terms of self-regard, sanctimonious, you know what I mean, lecturer. He's a bore. He's a scold. And I think he's going to go the way of Beto.
Yeah. Well, I think calling his own remarks is kind of another nail in the coffin of his campaign anyway.
What the Democrats are scared of, everybody should understand that. We've got 5 months to go. They are scared there's going to be a resolution one way or the other within the next month in Iran. And that's going to create momentum abroad. And Venezuela will behave. It's already added 300,000 barrels. And polls in Venezuela, as you mentioned last time, show that the U.S. and the change is popular still. And they think there's going to be momentum in Cuba. Once we get out of Iran, there's going to be a strangle on. I don't think we need to do any military action at all. Just turn the Cuban Americans loose economically and financially, not militarily. And they're afraid that the fundamentals of the economy are great. Massive foreign investment, great jobs report, record Wall Street highs. And to the degree we have inflation, it's It's still from the 30% rise, and Donald Trump has not raised it. But once the prices of oil get down, and it will crash, he's right about that, because it's been speculation that's jacking it up. And when speculators feel that they went too high and they're exposed, they will unload that stuff. And China will buy every drop at a discount. You know what I mean? It'll just call and say, I want 100. It says I want 1,000 million barrels of oil as quickly as I can get it, and but I want to pay only $20 or $40 a barrel. That'll happen. So they are afraid that there's still time, and there is still time for Donald Trump to resolve favorably, geostrategically favorably, and the Republicans will outspend them, and they will run campaign ads, three types. They're going to say, this is the economy and it's good. Number two, on foreign policy, they will say, where is Russia and China? And look at Cuba and look at Venezuela. And this president was the only guy courageous enough to deal with kind of like the Reagan bear commercial and the Russians. And then they're going to have, I hope, it's going to be a Lee Atwater type revelation of what the Democrats say. I expect to see Graham Plattner stuff, Talarico stuff, Jasmine Crockett stuff everywhere, on trans, on the border, on ICE. They should run a really good ad showing that 50% of ICE officers are middle-class Mexican American and Hispanic people. They know immigration better than any of these white, and they're out there every day getting spat upon by these Karens. I'm going to use that term, wealthy white Antifa types. And that doesn't go over well with the people that law enforcement, officers of the federal government are trying to help solve this problem that Biden left us with 12 million people, 500,000 criminals, and these elite people who are never subject to the consequences of their ideology are hitting them. Or they do gross things like those plastic phalluses, or they throw feces. It's just disgusting. And that they can do all that. So the Democrats are riding high, but nobody's really turned their attention yet to who they are now. They're not the Democratic Party. They're Jacobins. And they are really obnoxious and off-putting.